All right. Good afternoon, everybody. We'll get started here shortly. All right. So Mr. Ken's out doing his
I,
remote.
I am
Oh,
here.
there you go. You want to do the honors like you always do, or you want to just
Here we go.
go with it?
All righty. You want to get started or have we
Yeah.
started?
We'll just start her up. So hopefully you can see the screen. Welcome, first of all, to everybody that's here. Thank you for coming to spend a little time with us today. Hopefully you get something out of being here. We got to make sure that you know that eTruck Biz is not endorsed, sponsored, approved, or otherwise affiliated with FedEx Ground. We're just calling them like we see them. And as always, let's look at the volume trends for last week. So that looks pretty okay, right? Not great, but didn't fall off the earth. Packages hanging in there, that's good. And you know what? At least pickup packages for stop and the pickups for this. Look at that trend line. That's actually pretty encouraging for this um, time of the year, right? How about over on the delivery side? Stop delivery stops. Now look at that. Delivery stops up a little bit. That's good. And packages up. There you go. So we saw the pickups kind of pickups increase last week or the week before last, and then last week's volume kind of hanging there. That's a good sign. That's a really good sign, right? So hopefully that translates to some better productivity and demonstrating proficiency to FedEx. Need to do that. Haven't looked good there for a while. Well, there's routes dispatch kind of hanging in there. There you go. Coming back to the trend line for stops per dispatch. That's good.
Very
That's,
nice. That's a good improvement.
that's a good thing. So remember, we want to ask how many stops do you have out there today? How many stops per dispatch do you have? Do you know? Do you know? Do you know your easy number? Do you know what we're talking about with your easy number? If not, what's it costing you not to know that? Right? All right. Stay tuned into the webinar and we'll talk about that a little bit. So in the news, not too much news except for we'll be seeing you in Orlando, October 1st to 4th. A lot of you we know are coming, so that's good. So it's not too early at this point to start talking about peak of this year. Now I know FedEx used to, I don't know if they do now, but they used to bring about, talk about peak all the time. And that's fine. That's good. Need to. But there's really one thing for sure that we need to start talking about coming up for peak. We want to make sure it gets a lot of attention. As many of you already know, the failure or success of your business rides on what kind of recruiting process you have in place. Right? The time to worry about not having drivers for peak isn't in the middle of peak. It's now, right? What are we going to do about it now? Will you have enough well-trained drivers to go through peak? Are they can drive around with their back door open?
That could happen.
So many of you on this call are already in our administrative services manager program. That's good. A lot of you here know that part of that program is our driver recruiting and first advantage processing service. And if you're already in this program, you're going to have very little to worry about when it comes to recruiting, not just now, but as you get to peak and go through peak. The key to this program is, Seneca is going to talk to us here in a minute, but the key to this program is consistently recruiting now, starting now, and then right all the way on through peak. And then if you wait around, there's a new twist this year where one of the major recruiting services, or whatever they are, job search services, whatever, they even came out and said they're going to raise their prices. And yeah, in the middle of peak, isn't that great? So we want to get away from that. So without further ado, we want to let Seneca tell us about the risks and a whole bunch of other things about driver recruiting.
Great. Thanks, Jeff. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to talk about, first of all, the risks. Now, what does that mean when we say risks? So as CSPs, you are familiar that there are risks involved. So huge risk is not having enough drivers to deliver the packages. That's probably everyone's greatest fear. There's safety issues. So you want to make sure that those drivers are driving safely out there, do not cost you additional money with accidents. And then you have a risk of financial viability. So you could be doing everything right, but if you're not making money, then that's a risk to your business. Okay, so now we've identified the risks. How do we reduce those risks? So those three risks we just talked about really all are influenced by your drivers. So the top priority then logically would be that you are recruiting and retaining quality drivers. So only a small percentage of those apply are considered quality talent. Right now we track this and it's about 7%. So 7% of calls pass our initial screening questions. So that means 93 out of 100 do not. So that's a lot of time sifting through those candidates. But you want to do that. You just don't want to take every candidate. So that's, the benefit of having a recruiting system is you're not just grabbing somebody when you need them. You're sifting through all those less adequate drivers. Okay, so again, how to avoid hiring the less than adequate driver. We want you to have the best talent out there, the best driver. And so the way to do that, again, is to consistently recruit. Because we found, as you are probably had this experience, but a bad hire can be more expensive than proactively recruiting. You're going to have that cost of turnover. There could be an accident involved, your team's morale, the productivity, your service. There's just so many things that a bad hire can affect. So again, how do we avoid a bad hire? Always recruit. That way, when a good candidate comes along, you can replace somebody that's a lesser quality. That would be the best time to release them. You have somebody better. You want to always be improving your staff. Again, we talked about the cost of a bad hire, not just administratively, you know, getting them in payroll and the time it takes for that, but the training time, safety, all that is just wasted with a bad hire. And then with that, with a lower turnover, you're going to have increased profitability because those costs are going to be reduced. And as Jeff mentioned earlier, we received a notice that Indeed will be increasing their costs during peak with the push that you should start recruiting now. So not only will you save money on ad costs, but you're going to get the better candidates. So, you know, as you get closer to peak, the pool of eligible, the best candidates are going to be picked through. And again, you don't want to have a bad hire, especially at peak. Okay, so as mentioned, we have the ASM program, which our focus is let's handle these administrative tasks for you, the non-revenue producing tasks, so that you and your BC can focus on the revenue producing tasks, doing OB-RIDEs, everything else. As mentioned, you know, 97 or 93% of the candidates aren't even going to pass that initial screening. So let us do that, or let it, you know, have a recruiting program that takes that time-consuming process off your hands. So why would you want to outsource? As we said, you know, you and your BC are wearing multiple hats. By outsourcing recruiting, it simplifies the process and you don't have to worry about that. We work with you to make sure that we're screening to your specifications. And, you know, I think you guys are all aware, we've heard many times how overwhelmed BCs are, especially during peak. So again, by taking this huge task off your hand, you'll be able to focus on what is important. So not only will it help you operationally, it should help you financially. You're already paying for this in some way, shape, or form. And if it's that your BC can't do other things, you're paying for it. Or if you're paying another service, you know, no matter what, you're paying for it financially by not allowing your operations to be at the best they can be. So again, it is going to improve your organizational efficiency, reducing costs. And I like that that little blurb up at one level up there. It would give you a big part of your life back. So we see that so often where BCs are just overwhelmed. They just are grasping at straws to try to stay afloat with all their duties. So eliminating this important duty gives them the chance to function and get their life back as well. Okay, so the benefits of recruiting, saving hours by having to weed through those candidates, manage your ad. Our recruiters have decades of experience. They're very knowledgeable and have insight into this process, and so that you can have the peace of mind that it's being done professionally. And also you're going to have that pool of qualified driver candidates. So no, you don't hire every one of them, but you would, the best of the bunch, you contact and let them know, you know, that if a position comes up or when a position comes up, that you would love to have them on your team, or you can filter out the less qualified and bring in the best of the bunch. Okay, and if you're interested in seeing or learning more about our recruiting and other programs, the ASM program, we also have an optimized performance program that's based more on your operations, and the ASM is more of the administrative side. But to learn more about what each program entails,
Can I
So-
add to that?
Yeah, I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
go,
See, the optimized performance program is going to add some methods training in there for you, the AO, and your BC. And as we find out, you can recruit drivers, and we can help you recruit drivers. If you turn a very good candidate over to a BC or a lead driver that doesn't know the methods, you're going to have a frustrated driver, and you're going to have a driver that's going to learn the wrong way to do the job. So, I can't emphasize enough. You go through all the efforts of getting help recruiting, putting a person on, and then you turn them over to somebody who is not going to do the right things with that driver. And what ends up happening is you end up with a whole group of drivers learning the wrong way to do the job. So I would.
so you know what, Ken, why don't you tell us what you guys are doing right now?
Okay, so Bob and I are visiting a customer. This is a new customer and week 2 of the operation. Pretty good group of drivers, but we decided to go out and follow a driver today who at one time was deemed a lead driver. He's no longer a lead driver. And what we saw was scary. Going through a neighborhood with the back door open, actually dropped a package out of the back door. Came back, got the package, but continued down the road with the back door open. Delivering since we have access to eRoute, he was delivering section 8,000 and 7,000 first, and he was delivering that out of the back door. So not only is the guy working harder, he's putting himself at risk, he's putting packages at risk, and putting a contractor at risk because, needless to say, kind of a big security violation. So, and it's because a lead driver. So I'm sure he's trained other drivers to do it just like he was doing. And he was probably trained how to do it. So tomorrow we're going to meet with the drivers and we're going to cover the methods again. And the importance of following the order that the truck is loaded, as well as following methods to make your job, their job easier. I mean, if you look at a UPS driver, they don't run, they don't sweat. They stay on the road 9 hours, and they are methods machines. They are robots. And it takes them 45 seconds to do a stop. But guess what? That stop is within 3 steps of that bulkhead door, and they go. So that, it's one of those things. You can go out and see what we saw today, probably in a lot of operations. So as AOs, I'd encourage you to do that. You're going to see what you don't want to see, but you need to see it.
So that's really what's going, I mean, in a lot of cases, that's what's going on out there, Ken, is the folk that our drivers really are lacking training and maybe follow-up. And maybe that's what you guys are doing. So when we were talking about these programs, of course, we've been touting the ASM program quite a bit, but Ken and Bob are out there under the optimized performance program. There's a lot of things in that program, but one of the things is they will come and do this for you or with you, whatever you want to do, however you want to work it. That's really it, you guys. That's what's going on here. We gotta know what the drivers are doing. What else did you see? So one of the things, a P&D method rule of thumb is to fuel up the truck when?
Oh, sorry about that. You would want to fuel the truck up in the evening. And we're in a facility that at least twice a week, they dispatch after 10 o'clock in the morning.
I was going to say, why do you want to fuel the trucks on the way back?
Because if you're leaving at 10 o'clock in the morning, you've got pickups that close at 3:30, 4:30. So what have you done? You've lost the ability to do stops when it's optimal to do stops. And, you know, everybody says you can't deliver at night. Yeah, you could still deliver at night, but it doesn't get any easier when it's dark to deliver. And it's impossible to deliver a business when they're closed. So that's going to lead to service failures. So having your drivers fuel up at night on the return to the building, you know, and we see it here, drivers basically waiting to get out, and then what do they do? They go to the fuel pump and then waiting for fuel, and they're there another 15 to 20 minutes. So now you've lost, at 20 stops an hour, guess what you've lost? You've lost the ability, at least 5 stops. Chances are you're going to lose 10. That's a minimum of 5 stops that you're going to lose. So you got to make sure you continue to ask the drivers to fuel at the right time as well.
Okay. Whoops. So anyway, let's finish off our slides here. Anyways, Seneca talked to us about this. First advantage processing goes with the driver recruiting program. There's a lot of here, don't fall into this. There's a pro tip. Don't fall into I got a $99 app that will get you drivers. Got some news for you. That doesn't work at all, if maybe once in a while, but that's not the way to recruit drivers. So if you're interested in knowing about some of these programs, you want to make an appointment with Becca. She will take you through some things, or she'll take you through the presentation about the programs. You'll also, if you make an appointment today with Becca, you'll get the interactive BC daily checklist, which I'd be interested, Ken, if the operation that you guys looked at today, do you think that the BC is following any kind of structure or checklist?
No, but they will. So, and then once again, it's a training thing.
So that's the thing. Yeah, I was just going to say, the thing isn't, to just hound somebody about doing a checklist. Doing these things on this checklist magically results in things start happening the right way in your business, right? I mean, things start getting handled, taken care of. People know the right things, and then, okay, now we start turning the corner. Also, you'll get the very now popular financial analysis and operating budget. In this case, now, if you book an appointment with Becca, you'll get this whole report individualized for your particular situation. Okay, so I want to make sure that we know to again book an appointment with Becca so we can go through all the different programs that we have to help you out. And I don't know, Ken, you're on there, so let's go through a couple questions here.
Trying to open up this Q&A, and there we go. Okay. This first one was, what has changed in the recruiting service from years ago? I think the biggest thing is, I mean, we've always had live recruiters. We've always asked the knockout questions. I think the ability to move people through First Advantage has improved with the relationship that we've built with First Advantage. Anything you want to add to that, Seneca?
Yeah, I was just going to say, so we still offer our recruiting services a la carte, but with the ASM, it's included, and you would not pay for the Indeed ads separately. It's bundled into that ASM program. So you wouldn't have to worry about that side of it. Other than that, we have the same, experienced recruiters that have the insight and knowledge. I would just say from a few years ago, there are a few more years of experience, but you are always assigned your own recruiter. So you build that relationship with them, and they work with you to customize your ad to your criteria, and we get them ready all the way to the road test eligible.
Excellent. Appreciate that, Seneca. Next
So,
question.
well, but another thing though, let me throw this in there. It's not, so you can, if you want, waste all that time sifting through every single person that answers the ad, whatever. One of the things people say, well, I didn't get that. I don't get as many recruits through your service as everybody else. That's because we're sifting through them so you don't have to. We don't present you with everybody and their brother that answers an ad or calls on the phone or whatever they do, because that's not, you need to be focusing on revenue producing activities, not going through 25 people that have responded to an ad, and 24 of them aren't worth the time anyway. That's not how you run this business. You need to focus on revenue producing activities. Right. I don't know if that's different from before, but just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, and I just want to add one more thing. So our, as mentioned, our recruiters, have decades of experience. They have the insight. There's been examples where one of our recruiters screened somebody and just, for whatever reason, I don't know that necessarily the knockout questions weren't answered appropriately. It was just the vibe or the insight of dealing with people for so many years that they didn't process them further. They said, well, we don't know that it'll be a good fit. Thank you for your time. Well, then the VC said, no, I want this person to go through First Advantage. Well, it came back, they weren't eligible. And no, we don't have that crystal ball, that insight, but I think that in a way we do have that insight just by having that experience, that we can make sure you're getting the best candidate, not just that they pass those pre-screened questions, but also that they do well on the phone. They just had a good vibe on that initial phone interview, where, as Jeff mentioned, AI offshore, they're not doing that. They're just going through the most basic steps possible.
Thank you, Seneca. Absolutely right there. Next comment was 20% of the packages have to go out the back door due to oversize. I think 20% is a high number, but you still would not want to deliver your 8,000 and your 7,000 section first. It's extra walking for your driver. And that was not the case with what was happening today. So, but yeah, you do have backdoor deliveries, and you want them back there. So you're going to take those out, but delivering the truck out of the 8,000 and the 7,000 section first is extremely inefficient. And what it does is your drivers don't think that they can fill the aisle because they're going to deliver that first. So it's going to go against your DRO plan and reduce the number of packages that you can put on the truck. When you reduce the number of packages and stop on the truck, what do? You make it impossible to hit your easy number, and therefore you're not going to end up with enough revenue on that truck. So it's a bad cycle. So once again, DRO has to be set up properly, and you want your drivers delivering the order in the truck that it's loaded. And yes, you will still have backdoor deliveries. They're going to happen, but at the same time, don't manage to the exception, manage to the rule. So if this guy's going to do basically half of his truck, 50% of his truck backwards, even if at worst, that's still going to increase his walking by 50% in the day. What's it going to do? Make that person work harder, more susceptible to injury, and then driving down the road with the door open is just never acceptable. So that appears to be the last question. But as I said, and as Seneca said, invest in recruiting. And during, for peak, you're not always recruiting people that are going to make this a career. You're looking for people that are seasonal hires. You might be, and those seasonal hires might only work 2 or 3 days a week. And that's something that you're upfront with, as well. But at the same time, don't turn away people that could be excellent drivers for you as well, and to upgrade, your current status of drivers as well. And then once you get them in, give them the best training possible. Because you've invested all that money and time, give them the best training possible. So know the methods. If you don't know the methods, pick up the phone, schedule a consultation with Becca, and Bob and I'd love to come visit you. So with that, we'll be back here again next Tuesday. I'll be back in the main office, I think. But that could change if somebody's knocking down the doors and wants me to come there next week. Guess what? I'll be there. So we appreciate everybody's business. We appreciate your time for joining us today. If you got any other questions, please, as I said, please don't hesitate to reach out. With that, please have a safe and profitable week. I don't know if Jeff, Carey, or Seneca have anything else to add.
No, I think you said it well, Ken. Thanks.
Oh, awesome. So once again, thank everybody, and we'll be back here next week. Be safe, be profitable. Thanks.